Good afternoon. My name is Lindsay McFarland, and today we will be discussing Inspire Brands' acquisition of Dunkin Brands. I'm here with my team, Kevin, Will, Lindsay, and Maddie, and we're really excited to further look into this acquisition.
For an overview, Inspire Brands is reported to have placed an $8.8 billion bid to purchase and privatize Dunkin Brands. Inspire is looking to expand internationally, as well as into the coffee market, and Dunkin has been struggling since the onset of COVID, looking to revitalize their business through an acquisition. We'll argue this later in the presentation, and we believe Dunkin is a good fit for Inspire to acquire. Given that Inspire Brands is looking to expand their branded restaurants more globally, like Arby's, Sonic, and Jimmy John's, and since Dunkin is in over 36 countries, they already have the relationships formed in just about any place that Inspire would want to operate in. Therefore, corporate advantage is achieved as it will be easier and cheaper for Inspire Brands to open new locations and expand their restaurants, leveraging existing relationships. There are many advantages as well among SG&A, which would fall under consolidation synergies, which include consolidation of administration and contract negotiation. However, Inspire can also gain the experience of, say, Dunkin's international real estate team or legal department when looking to expand internationally. Therefore, corporate advantage lies between the companies and their ability to leverage their differing resources among the restaurant market itself. Lastly, there are lower barriers to entry through these advantages, since between Inspire and Dunkin, many of the overhead costs, like SG&A that I mentioned, overlap. Since majority of the advantage lies in the relationships held by Dunkin or Inspire, in order to keep these advantages sustainable, Inspire must maintain the existing relationships of Dunkin that they wish to keep, since those resources are intangible through human connection. This acquisition would place Inspire Brands in direct competition with JAB, the current largest competitor to Starbucks. IB currently does not operate in the coffee breakfast market. JAB Holding Company is a privately owned German company that owns and operates dozens of coffee and breakfast companies like Peet's Coffee, Caribou, Panera, and Pret. While Starbucks remains the market leader as a standalone business of their own, acquiring Dunkin would put Inspire Brands on the map in the coffee market to compete with both Starbucks and JAB Holdings. Given the size, Dunkin struggles to compete with Starbucks, but Caribou and Panera are able to succeed with the resources backed by JAB and the many synergies that come from a restaurant portfolio holding company. Dunkin currently sits similarly to Starbucks as a competitor, but if Inspire wins the deal, it will compete more closely with JAB as it will be within a portfolio company. On the flip side, JAB falls prey to much cannibalization since many of their operations are direct competitors. Since Dunkin would be a new market for Inspire within restaurants, they will gain the entrance to the coffee market while maintaining diversity of offerings between their range of restaurant groups. Thus, I recommend Inspire focuses on maintaining the global presence of Dunkin while utilizing their resources to expand Inspire's brands globally as well.
In order to analyze the decision and strategy behind Dunkin' Brands' agreement to be acquired by holding company Inspire Brands, our team looked at where this decision aligns along the resource pathway framework. More specifically, we analyzed the buy pathway, one of the final steps in the framework where this decision falls. As we have discussed in class, buying has some cons, as it can not only be risky, but also tremendously expensive. This acquisition is no exception, as IB is spending $11.3 billion on the deal accounting for debt, paying roughly a 20% premium on outstanding shares of the company. To assess how this deal can become worthwhile for each party, we move to the first step in the framework, identifying a clear map for integration. From this lens, there are a number of synergies from which both parties can draw benefit, which we will analyze shortly as a part of our 4C synergy analysis. It is also worth considering if there are any resources that should be divested as a part of the acquisition plan. For example, Dunkin' Brands is inclusive of Baskin-Robbins, whose sales have especially declined during the COVID-19 pandemic. We will analyze whether this resource is necessary for IB to maintain as they move forward strategically, as we believe developing these strategic decisions early will be key to the deal's success. Next, in the framework, Inspire Brands needs to assess how the acquisition of Dunkin' Brands will affect employee motivation. We believe that the risk of compromising employee satisfaction is relatively low, as IB is not proposing any drastic shifts to Dunkin's current business model and is focused instead on synergies that aid expansion, cooperation, and consolidation. Now I'll hand it off to Maddie and Lindsay to talk more about these synergies and strategic considerations.
Dunkin' Donuts and Baskin-Robbins often co-locate the two brands, which creates several synergies through shared resources and driving traffic throughout various parts of the day. The two brands also share products and branding of flavors across the two stores, which generates media buzz for both brands. For example, Baskin-Robbins sold a donut ice cream sandwich using Dunkin' Donuts. The two also share other cost synergies through sharing of SG&A expenses and economies of scope of ingredients and labor. Although there are several synergies between the business units, Dunkin' Brands is being held back by low sales and profit growth from Baskin-Robbins US and falling profit margins of Baskin-Robbins International. The ice cream stores are especially hard hit by COVID, and growth is only expected to slow further. This is hindering the otherwise impressive growth of Dunkin' Donuts and its ability to compete with companies like Starbucks. For these reasons, we believe at this point that Dunkin' Donuts International and US fit well within the Dunkin' Brands portfolio, but Baskin-Robbins International is a taker, although above the threshold of acceptance, and Baskin-Robbins US is a parasite. One of the main reasons Baskin-Robbins brand is currently dragging down Dunkin' Brands as a whole is the drain on resources that otherwise could be used to improve Dunkin' Donuts and allow it to compete more closely with Starbucks. A solution to this problem is a change or addition to management and increased resources, which is what the Inspire Brands acquisition of Dunkin' Brands offers.
When looking into the potential synergies created between Inspire Brands and Dunkin' Brands, we chose a few key ones to highlight. The first is market power, a combination synergy. This is a symmetric, two-sided synergy as both brands are benefiting. With the acquisition, Inspire Brands will gain an increased market power over suppliers, as they will be able to leverage their buying power that comes with purchasing large quantities of standard products, such as flour and sugar, to negotiate lower prices for inputs, leading to overall lower production cost. In addition, Inspire Brands will gain an increased market power over consumers, as they are further diversifying their portfolio by offering beverages and breakfast food, creating more of an opportunity to capture a consumer's dollar. In addition, this acquisition allows for both Inspire Brands and Dunkin' to further potentially build out a reward system across all brands, similar to the restaurant conglomerate Bloomin' Brands. Another potential synergy is co-location, a connection synergy. This is also a two-sided symmetric synergy. Co-location could be standalone buildings with multiple restaurants or food courts and rest stops ran by a singular holding company. This synergy allows for the pooling of resources such as shared kitchens, land, labor, or dining areas to lower search and transaction costs. This acquisition will also increase the flow of customer traffic because Inspire Brands can target customers at different points in their day, such as Dunkin' for breakfast, Jimmy John's for lunch, and Buffalo Wild Wings for dinner. In addition, co-location at rest stops and in food courts makes the consumer's decision easier and allows for cross-selling between brands. So you can get a scoop of ice cream from Baskin-Robbins and a cheeseburger from Sonic at the same place. When looking into intertemporal economies of scope, we found that the merger would allow both companies to better meet a variety of customer needs through the reallocation of resources and taking advantage of Inspire Brands' diverse portfolio. With the acquisition, Inspire Brands will be able to rotate locations of their stores and swap out brands that are either growing faster or a better fit at a lower cost than what would have been incurred if the rotation was happening with two different firms. For example, a Dunkin' might do better in a college town than an Arby's. This acquisition would allow the transition to endure lower cost while simultaneously creating more value for both Dunkin' and Inspire Brands.
In addition to the synergies Lindsay mentioned, there are a few others we'd like to touch upon. Inspire's goal is to bring together a family of highly differentiated but complementary brands, which is exactly what they would be doing with the acquisition of Dunkin' Brands. The addition of a coffee and an ice cream brand will diversify Inspire's portfolio and allow Dunkin' to diversify as well. Adding well-established brands in separate spaces of the restaurant industry allows Inspire to decrease risk and create value for shareholders through corporate advantage. Additionally, the acquisition would create consolidation synergies in the form of optimized SG&A costs for both entities, as well as Dunkin' would greatly benefit from the successful digital infrastructure that Inspire Brands has already put in place in its restaurants. This is especially true given the current COVID-19 situation, and Inspire's scale and emphasis on this digital investment will allow Dunkin' to better compete within the coffee space. On the other hand, Dunkin' will strengthen Inspire Brands through scaled international performance and its robust consumer packaged goods licensing infrastructure. Dunkin' will also add more than 15 million loyalty members to Inspire Brands' base, which will more than double its footprint. A loyal consumer base, however, is very much a two-sided synergy that both entities can capitalize on. One of the most significant synergies to come out of this merger would be the combination synergy of knowledge power. As I previously mentioned, trying to keep Baskin-Robbins growing is a drain on the limited Dunkin' resources. By becoming a part of a larger holding company with experience in other restaurant spaces, Dunkin' can alleviate this drag and greatly benefit from improved management and industry expertise. For these reasons, we consider Dunkin' Brands a fit in Inspire Brands' portfolio because both Dunkin' and Inspire have significant value to be gained through synergies achieved from this merger.
Although Dunkin' is a U.S. corporation, currently it operates in 43 different countries. In comparison, Inspire Brands only has two franchises operating internationally, Arby's and Buffalo Wild Wings, in 8 and 9 countries respectively. Dunkin' has recently invested heavily in European markets, beginning in Spain and Germany and continuing into Denmark, Austria, Sweden, and Switzerland. One crucial factor to the brand's European growth has been its success in Germany, where it established a regional supply chain as well as a local development, marketing, and operational teams. Dunkin' seems to invest most heavily in countries where citizens have high purchasing power, and perhaps with this new acquisition, Inspire Brands may be able to capitalize on these same markets. As mentioned earlier in the presentation, Inspire Brands can enter these markets with Dunkin's breakfast presence and receive the benefits of intratemporal economies of scope with their lunch and dinner offerings. To determine the international sensitivity of the fast food market as a whole, our team conducted a cage analysis. To begin, we perceive culture as an important determinant in the success of international expansion in the fast food industry, as cultural sensitivities are ingrained into the taste of the people. With this being so, for Inspire Brands to truly be successful, they should enter markets closer in cultural taste to the United States. In addition, they should also take into account the differing nutritional standards of the countries into which they look to expand. The international administrative hurdles are currently low in the fast food industry. However, the World Health Organization has been pushing for an increase in regulation since 2015 due to widespread increase in obesity rates across the globe. Similarly, the geographic sensitivity is also low, as fast food can be sourced easily from local regions. In addition, franchisees do not have high amounts of coordination across geographies, which can be seen through the Dunkin' International website and the different offerings for each of their countries. Finally, the fast food industry is highly sensitive to economic differences between countries, and if Inspire Brands hopes to expand its international offerings, it must consider the negative elasticity of demand that comes with fast food products, either by choosing to penetrate markets with lower GDP per capita or adapting their product to enter into stronger markets. Although there is a strong demand for U.S. fast food abroad, and Dunkin' has flourished internationally, we believe that due to these market sensitivities, Inspire Brands should first work to capitalize upon its synergies domestically before expanding internationally with its other companies within its portfolio. This way, IB can best understand how to make this expansion as cost-effective and as volume maximizing as possible.
We believe that the acquisition will remedy the bulk of strategic gaps that exist when the two companies operate separately, such as the gap in Inspire Brands' portfolio in the breakfast coffee market, as well as in their international foothold and their ability to compete with JAB. On the Dunkin' brand side, the gap exists with the struggle to manage multiple brands as well as deal with the COVID-19 pandemic and the closing of Dunkin' Donut locations across the United States. Therefore, we believe that the decision for these two companies to come together was well calculated, as the synergies we previously discussed will fill strategic gaps that exist within both brands, and Inspire Brands should continue with their plan for the acquisition of Dunkin' Brands to add value to both companies.
As I alluded to earlier when discussing the resource pathway framework, acquisition of a company is both risky and costly. On the screen, we have identified some key risks that Inspire Brands should keep in mind while proceeding forward in their deal. First, they must be careful to not scale internationally too quickly, as doing so could bring on a range of issues. IB must be careful to maintain product quality as they expand, tactfully accounting for cultural differences between regions. Next, they should be aware that coffee sales might not fully rebound after the pandemic. Dunkin' has seen declining sales in part because it has become more common to work remotely, meaning customers are no longer commuting to work daily to stop at their local coffee shop, and have instead found cheaper alternatives at home. It is unclear how these sales will recover as people begin transitioning back to their office environments. IB must also be cognizant of unforeseen expenses that could result from the deal, such as costs from unmet employee expectations or disruptions in consolidating supply chains. The next two risks are complementary. We've identified many synergies that will result from the acquisition, but it is important that research on these benefits is thorough so that they are appropriately valued and a bid can be placed accordingly. The final risk consideration is unforeseen shifts in the market, or acts of God, if you will. Who knows what great disruption could occur in the coffee industry tomorrow? Although anything is possible, we believe that IB has prepared itself well by having a diversified portfolio that can guard against unsystematic risk. All in all, we recommend that Dunkin' Brands and Inspire Brands move forward in their deal while maintaining careful watch over the risks that pose considerable threats to its success.
As Will just mentioned, and after careful consideration, we believe that Inspire Brands should continue with this acquisition of Dunkin' Brands. Thank you so much for your time.